Give me the news. I got a bad case of selling the blues. No pill's gonna cure my head. I got a bad case of selling.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. Thanks for joining me today. I am thrilled to have you join me on Sunday morning. It is January 24th. Hey, thanks, Top Fan Stan, for my theme song. I'll have to figure out probably a better way to use that. If you're just joining in, do me a favor and type in where in the world you're joining me from. Could be in another time zone, could be another country. I am in upstate New York today. It is a chilly 0 degrees out today, so I'm glad to be inside. And I wanted to start off today by just talking about it should be inventory season for all of you. Good morning, Mert from Turkey. Oh, awesome. We've got so many people. Green, Kentucky. Tina, great, excellent. It should be inventory season this whole week because most people end up using January as our cutoff. January 31st, the cutoff, and we do physical inventories. Why? Because you've got to know what you have in stock. And a lot of people poo-poo me on this, like, well, we haven't done inventory in a long time, and I don't really need it for insurance. Well, it's always a great idea for insurance. If God forbid something does happen, you know exactly what it is. But a lot of people say, oh, it's just too hard. And, when I was speaking in Belgium a couple of years ago and visited their store of the future, George, I'm glad that you're joining us as well. And one of the new innovations is going to be when RFID tags are on everything, you'll actually have a gun, basically, not a real gun, but kind of like a priced gun. And you stand in the middle of the store and you'll just go 360 degrees around, and you can do that every night. It'll match up against your computer. You'll know exactly what your shrink is and what's moving and what isn't. But those days for most of us aren't here yet. So the important thing is to know your inventory. And, right now we're in the middle of one of our sprints for Sales RX. And one of the things I talk about is you got to know who you are right now before you can understand who you want to become. What does that mean? Well, I use personality styles so that you understand that if you just know what the pitfalls of your personality are, then you can make sure you're always working against that. So for me, I'm a driver personality, and I don't get too deep into it. I'm not a Myers-Briggs, LMNFG, and I know who that is because, frankly, I don't remember all those personality traits. And probably if you're really into all that, you're probably an analytical. But drivers, we can come off like a ton of bricks. So just a casual remark that I make can end up being devastating to a crew member just because the energy I typically bring to it. So when I'm doing a live presentation, and I'm excited to say I got my first booking for July in person in Dallas. I'm looking forward to that. Of course, I'll be vaccinated before then. But when I do it live, somebody will ask a simple question. My sheer force of my energy can shut them down. So I've got to find a way to undercut that. So I will show pictures of me when I sold cowboy clothes, or I will tell stories that aren't always that I had my stuff together to work against that. If you're an analytical personality style, you pride yourself on having checklists and doing A to B to C to D to E to F to G. And if you're training someone, it's like you missed A or you missed C. And that's not how we train, because that also can cut people down. And if you're an expressive personality, you could be that kind of excited dog at a dog park. Throw the ball, bing, 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 you're all over. And your Achilles heel is probably going to be that you don't finish things. You start, but it's really hard for you to finish. So you're going to have to know that you probably have to have somebody else to hold you accountable. Otherwise, things aren't going to get done. And finally, if you're an amiable, you're all about somebody else. So you want to please somebody else, and it's really hard for you to hold people accountable because that makes you feel like you're the bad guy. And if you're in a management position, that's deadly because you're not going to fire someone. You're going to give them a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chance. Well, right now, if you're looking at what I believe is the coming hedonism, and the next 2 or 3 years are going to be really strong. The federal government's going to be pumping money in the economy. There's going to be good jobs out there. There's going to be a lot of reasons for hope. And if you're one of those who wants to say, well, I don't, well, great, you win. The person that says that I'm hopeful and the person that says I'm not, they're both right because you make it what you want. But for today, I want you to be thinking about knowing your numbers with inventory, because now is the time to do that. And also, knowing your numbers. I just did a quick check on my Facebook numbers because I was just curious. And you know that Facebook is showing your post to fewer and fewer people. In fact, for myself, I stopped boosting posts except for one in the last 4 weeks. And you know what? My reach and engagements have dropped by 25%. The odd thing is that my page likes are up 42%. So likes don't really pay the bills. What you care about is engagement, which is why I said last week, and a lot of you sent me DMs and emails, oh, I didn't know that. You always want to bring these people from Facebook to your newsletter, to your site, so that they become your leads, not Facebook's. But all that wraps its way up to know that you've got to know what is in store, what actually is there that matches against your POS. You know, so many people look at Walmart and Target and say, well, if I had money, I would be like them too. You know, the thing that separates them is they understand the data. The data is what matters. And so you can't do a click and collect. You can't do a shop online, pick up in store, unless your data is exact. And you know what that's like, right? You click something, you say, yeah, I'll pick up in 2 hours. And you get to the store and like, oh yeah, we're out. We can't find it. It says we have it, but we don't. Well, when the computer systems aren't aligned, then there's no way you can deliver on that. And that's hard for all of us, always has been. But when it comes down to it, this is your chance to rectify it. So the one quick tip, and then in tonight's newsletter, I'm going to share with you how do you do, it's the difference between a sale and clearance. And then there's a guide on how you can do inventory. But the key is that whatever you find is a mismatch, right? So you had 13 come in and there's only 3 that sold, and you should have 10 and there's 1. That's a shrink, that's 9. And what you have to do is you have to ship those out to like store 99 so that you're always tracking it. The worst thing lazy shop owners do is we just change the inventory. Like, well, just make it what it is. No, that's not the answer, because where did those 9 go? Could have been somebody received it wrong. Could be employees are stealing it, which, sorry, amiable personalities. You got to believe that can happen. Or maybe it's miswrong. They couldn't find the SKU. They just picked something else. But it's a real wake-up call when people match what we should have with what's in the store. So without getting too long in that, and I know a lot of big retailers follow me as well, you already have these sophisticated systems, but know that it still comes down to your Achilles heel is how well your crew is trained to deal with the exceptions when something doesn't scan or when something doesn't match the computer. You don't just magically make it go away or magically get into stock. You've got to track it. So I hope that helps today. Got so many people from across the world here. Farah says, I use a third party to integrate my Lightspeed POS with my Shopify website. Now my inventory is synced and it's life-changing. Exactly, Farah. Just make sure that the actuals match what both of those systems say you have. That's the key, because most of them, you have to open up inventory for them to sell it online. So being ahead of all that really makes a difference. Hey, Mateen's, glad you're here from Kurdistan. Jeff from Quincy, Illinois. Edmund from Ghana. Who else we have? Taner from UAE. We got people all over. Eddie from Grand Cayman. What are you doing? You should be on a beach somewhere. Well, I'm glad you're here this morning. Good morning, Breda. Glad you're always with us from Ireland. So I have a few questions, and then I'll be off with you. If you have any questions while I'm speaking, when I get to the end of these, I will take those as well. Sherry, can you offer some tips to a beauty salon owner who wishes to improve our retail sales? So Sherry, you know, I've worked with some of the greatest brands in hair care around, and I don't have time to go into everything, but I would say most beauty salons miss it from the most basic thing that has to happen to the receptionist. You know what that is? Get the next appointment. Always get the next appointment. I get my hair cut about every 7 weeks when I think about it. And it's too long, unless last year when you saw me shaggy dog, you know, we were locked down. And yet if the guy would just get out his book and book it, I'd be every 4 weeks. And that would literally double his sales. But they aren't thinking that. And the same thing with retail sales. You know, so many salons, retail sales are the kind of black sheep of the family. You put it up there and then you assume that people are just going to go up, oh, I'll take that $35 shampoo. But it's usually your stylist, oh, well, you know, it's expensive. And, you know, I don't want to be pushy. Look, if they can't duplicate their hairstyle when they walk out of there, you are wasting your marketing, because it's not churn. You want people loyal to you. And if it was me at the wash booth, I would tell them, this is what I'm using on your hair. What are you using right now? Oh, I use Prel. You know, I get 2 for $1 for $6. Oh, well, at the end, you might want to change that because, and then tell them why and start planting the seed so that when you get to the end of the haircut or the visit, they can say, and here is the prescription I would have for you. You want to use this because it'll keep your hair from doing that. You want to use this because it does that. And you'll probably want to replace what you've been using to blow dry your hair because unless it's an ion inducing product, you're probably going to get those frizzy ends, which is going to be really hard for you to maintain. But you have to decide, am I in it to make the customer more successful, or am I not? And too many, I think, salon hairdressers, we're artists. We don't want to sell. We don't have to sell. We're artists. Like, get over yourself. If you can't market yourself, you're not going to be getting nearly the business. And then you're going to put that little A-frame out. Walk-ins welcome. You know what walk-ins welcome means? We didn't have enough business to actually book all of our clients. So, yeah, that's tough love for you, Sherry. I hope that helps. Cheryl says, what's the best way to win back your customers? Cheryl, the easiest thing is to just ask them a question that is something you could change. So, hey, it's been a while since we've seen you. Is it because you would like us to have longer hours? Is it because give them a choice of 3, a simple little poll, make it easy on social media. You could end up doing it through an email, but make no mistake, if you really know who they are, then you can win them back. But if you don't have a list and you haven't worked to get them on Facebook and to like you and to follow you, etc., then the first step is you have to find a way to get that tribe to come to you. And that's a more detailed conversation that I can have. But the biggest way to win back customers is simply ask. Top fan Roberta says, how do I handle a former part-timer who left on good enough terms, contacted me today from a pub saying she's supporting local businesses and how much is her price for a sweater she saw here last month? How worked do I feel? It's real simple, Roberta. If you didn't know her, what would you say? Oh, I'll give you 40% off. You say, oh, well, her price, in spite of her asking, her price is going to be whatever the price is. So you say, oh, it's $85, and then don't add anything onto it or whatever it is, and be done. Unless you want to let everything be open to negotiation, I don't want to open that door. So I hope that helps. Savannah says, looking into switching POS systems. Currently, I'm using QuickBooks POS, and I hate it. Any POS system you hate, it's always a good time to replace it. Any suggestions? It needs to support 15,000 plus SKUs, e-com, and multi-stores. So I always say when you're looking at, in fact, if you do a quick Google search, Bob Phibbs POS systems, you'll see I have if I think about it, I will put the link in after this, but I have 41 questions you should be thinking about asking before you buy a new POS system. I'll tell you, I've worked with Lightspeed. I think they do a great job. I think they also support me as the retail doctor, amplifying my message. There are other people out there that pretty much are trying to take my content and rewrite it, hoping people will go and use their system, and I'm not a real fan of that. So for me, Lightspeed, I think, does a great job, and I know the owner, Dax, has been on my podcast, and I think that we're seeing their brand grow around the world, and they're doing a great job. So, but there are other options out there. Just make sure you're asking the right questions. John says, what's the single significant change retail owners can make besides daily team training? Well, you got to know your customers. We're on the same theme here today, John. And I would say in this day and age, it's easy when you can find your top 10% of your customers, stalk them on Instagram or Facebook. I would set up a Google alert so that anytime those people are mentioned, I'm going to get alert in my email so I could just send them a quick note. Hey, John, I saw that you got a promotion or your brand did this. If you're a sales rep, you're watching this, you do it for that brand as well. And you make sure that you can be constantly contacting them. But knowing who your customers are saves you money and saves you time. And to your point, that's behind daily team training and having a sales process that can build your sales. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels, I think. Leslie says, what does retail look like after this? Did we just add consumer expectations of services provided? Leslie, I think, what does retail look like? The reality is that we've been saying this. I've been saying this myself for 5 or 10 years. The customer is going to want to be able to shop whenever they want, wherever they want, however they want. It's that simple. So if she wants to pay by Google Pay, you better have that ready. Apple Pay as well. If she wants to buy through a virtual presentation on your site, you better be able to look at if they want to be able to go to your website, but also have somebody help them, you better have that ability. If they want to be able to message you, You want to have that ability. See, the beauty of all of this, I get what you're saying. Did we just add consumer expectations? But Leslie, what I think we've added is the idea that I no longer have to wait in my store for someone to walk in between the hours I'm comfortable being open. We can now schedule appointments. We can now have them find us at different times. We can schedule employees at more comfortable hours. You could actually be giving better service by having employees who could actually work in the morning virtually starting at 6 a.m. or being open late at night after the kids have gone to sleep, any number of things. But look at it as the opportunities we've got to connect with this new person are so great, and it's going to be hard to whittle it all down. And I get it, curbside is not exactly easy, and especially for smaller stores. I follow an awful lot of retailers, and they're talking about, I'm going out and driving this to somebody. And, that's interesting, but that's not what pays the bills. Because you're not putting your own time into that. And if, gosh forbid, something happens to you, the business is going to be severely impacted over your desire to say, well, I'll just go and do this. So to your point, just look at all the options and realize that we're coming into a new era, that we're not going to be talking about things as, it's online, it's catalog. We're going to go back to saying it's just shopping. How are they going to be able to get to us and give us their money? And then more importantly, what I think most retailers are missing for 2021 is, how do I build demand? We are still caught up in we do click and collect and we can ship and all that, but that's still Ticketmaster. We can hold your tickets at the door. We can fax them. We can mail them to you versus I want to go to Hamilton. That's the bigger discussion. And I said that on my webinar I had a couple weeks ago. So there you go. Doug says, how do you suggest we forecast for the future in these uncertain times? Doug, I think that you do have to have a long view and a short view. Long view is, I think this is going to be a record year. By the way, I have a new post I'm going to be coming out with this, the reality of retail. And, we were all smacked in the face last year with this one company that was saying 25,000 stores are going to close, or probably going to close, or going to close by the end of the year. And you know what the reality is? Less stores closed in 2020 than in 2019. That's the reality. But that expectation things could only get worse, you got to get rid of that. I think things are going to get better. I think as companies open up, I think as travel resumes, as people go into tourist, we are going to see, like we're seeing in Australia, like we're seeing in New Zealand and other places, consumers are going to be coming back in droves because they have all this money been sitting on. They want to do something with it, and it's going to be yours to lose. So I think the long term is, how are you going to plan for this? But the short term is really understanding you probably have more than enough inventory. That I get it. It's fun to go to a block buying show, but sell down and get really lean and decide, are our offerings unique enough that people are going to choose us over somebody else? Or do I tend to buy the same things over and over again? Or I have 3 lines that are really about the same, and understand now is the time to cull that down, especially as we come into Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I think, is going to be huge. I think the whole marketing you should be having is you don't have to wait till the 14th to give something. You don't have to give anything other than expressions, and help them understand of how do you express yourself in a Zoom call? How do you express yourself when you're socially distancing and trying to be really creative? I know one mall store that I was in last year, and one of the things I thought was really interesting is they set a little table up in their window. It was just a table for 2, and it was set really well. But they just had a candle in there, and it was the power of a candle to start a romantic evening. And it was a real candle. They were really building it, really lighting it every 6 hours. And I just thought, wow, that's really interesting, because there's nothing that looks more real than a candle that's burning. So consider that. I hope that helps. Ernie, how do I keep the momentum moving forward in my fireworks business when I know lack of product and price increases are our new reality? Ernie, price increases are probably going to happen for everybody. So get over that. And again, because you know what something costs doesn't mean the consumer does. And I'll tell you, most fireworks businesses that I know that are successful are not always the 2-for-1 and all that other stuff. They are really packaging and promoting the celebration and everything around there. So I would imagine you're in an area that probably doesn't have fireworks open all year long. Maybe they do. But just remember, if you're able to do them and they're legal, that what you're selling is that excitement of when they go off, not 2-for-1. So finding ways to talk about ways and reasons to use fireworks, If you're only open a week in July, making sure that you're not just promoting yourself in July, but you're talking about sharing memories and all those other things you can do as well to keep people focused on. It's about celebrations, it's about customers, and it brings me back to the same idea, which is knowing your inventory. Well, here are our questions here. I'm gonna, by the way, if you like what I have to say, give me some thumbs up, give me some love, give me a thumbs up. If you're on LinkedIn, I don't have applause. LinkedIn, you just have to applaud me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you just click that subscribe button. You'll be able to be notified anytime I go live. Ali says, keep them first. Don't let them go, right? Offer more and be different. Absolutely. I'm right with you. Donna, we do monthly, and I'm not sure what you do monthly. If we have anything extra special to say, I do it as an owner. It's my personality, my voice, but I'll ask my team for suggestions on topics. You must be talking about your newsletter. Start collecting at the register. Donna, yeah, monthly. The trouble with monthly for me, Donna, is I would prefer you move that to 3 weeks, because monthly is enough time that I've fallen off your radar, and making sure that you're not just another coupon or discount. You're adding value. That's the key for everything. Joanne, how do you like your POS? Okay, well, that's not for me. Justin, thank you for discussing this. We've been talking about this at our company for a couple of months now and are implementing a new POS and inventory system and wanting to do a little bit of selling online. I'm glad I tuned in. Well, that's always great. Justin, excuse me. I have the wrong name there. All right. Any other questions for me? I think I could go through and look at all this, but Roberta, what's the painting print behind you? That is an actual painting. I don't have prints. That's a painting I got in Toronto. Those of you who are gallery owners who watch me, I can tell you I rarely, if ever, go to a gallery where I live. I always buy art when we travel. And this one was an artist up in Toronto, and it was a beautiful little gallery. And I went back to that gallery not that long ago, and the artist has changed entirely. Like, this was the one time this person painted like that, and it reminds me of what I look out. I live up on the Hudson River in upstate New York, and it's actually very similar to what I look out at with the geese. When it is as cold as it is right now, the geese, Canada geese, are not talking. But in about another week or two, as things start to warm up, it'll be cold at night, but they all go through and they squawk all night, and then the ducks come in, and I always say, oh, well, it's a good show tonight, because it always sounds like the ducks are laughing at whatever the geese are saying. So a little sidelight on me and living in upstate with Canada geese. There you go. All right. So with that in mind, I always appreciate you joining me live. I try to go about 20 minutes. Those of you who want to go like an hour and a half on social, just understand 20 is really the sweet spot. It's enough that Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube think it's great. But realistically, when you look at your likes, Facebook calls a view as just 3 seconds. And if you really dig into it, a lot of people who may have tuned in originally tune out because they go on to something else, or there's another shiny widget or a cat video or Bernie meme or you name it. So always know your numbers, know your customers, and make sure that your inventory is correct as you end this first month of 2021. I appreciate you being here. You are the heroes. You're the ones out there trying to figure out, how do I open my heart to another human being? And you know what? If you're struggling, you're having a tough time, that all changes with the next customer that walks in the door. I'm Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next week at 9 a.m. Eastern, provided I get at least 5 questions so I have something to talk about. Thanks again.